RChili is the trusted partner for pairing, matching, and data enrichment, helping companies hire better talent faster. RChili help recruiters connect candidates with jobs by enhancing the candidate experience, simplifying the hiring process, reducing hiring costs, and saving time and money. For more information, visit www.rchili.com.
What great ideas are so close within your grasp? Seeing other points of view, anticipating change, considering multiple possible turnouts, acknowledging uncertainty, searching for compromise. We're going to talk about how to get over those limiters of innovation so that you can extract better thinking from yourself and your team. So let's talk about how to win the future.
Welcome back. In this episode, I'm joined by Howard Flint, a strategist with over 25 years of experience helping HR and recruitment technology businesses scale and realise their full potential. We explore what it really means to grow from a startup to a scale-up, the challenges these companies face as they professionalise, and why understanding the problem you truly solve is the foundation for success. So if you're building or marketing a recruitment tech business, this one is packed full of insight and is just for you. Welcome back, everybody, to the Marketing Rules podcast, and it's my pleasure to welcome on board Howard Flint. Howard, we've been kind of going backwards and forwards with this for a little while, so it's great to get you on board. For those who aren't aware of what you do, your background and what you do now, can you just give us a brief resume, as it were?
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much, James, and it's great to be here on the podcast at last. So let's see. I've been working in the recruitment and recruitment technology industry for the last 25 years, really looking at problems around how do you increase the value of these businesses, not just recruitment business. If I'm honest with you, I've worked with printing companies, estate agencies, boiler repair companies in the past. Certainly, recently that's where my focus has been, and trying to extract the value that's inherent within these companies, the value of the technology that they've got, the value that they can imbue with their customers, and how do we realize that commercially for them. Before I did this, actually, I had roles in a couple of large American companies, CSC and Eli Lilly. None of those were ever anything to do with marketing, some of them to do with sales, but mainly in the IT and sort of technology space. So it's technology and technology sales and business development has been my background for far too long. Longer than most of the people that are listening to this podcast. I'll tell you that.
And how did you kind of get into this? Was it like a lot of other people? Was it, as they describe, they fell into it in inverted commas, basically, or was it a conscious decision?
I tell you what was a conscious decision. It was a conscious decision to jump out of the US corporate life.
Right.
And so I've done that for quite some time. And I thought to myself, I'm now going to go and try and do something that allows me to be a little bit more independent, entrepreneurial, do my own thing. And I live in Altrincham in South Manchester. And there is a burgeoning, and has been for years, a burgeoning recruitment sector there. So my work on business development, which was what I was doing, really put me in contact with a lot of companies. It was the time when recruiters were looking at becoming recruitment outsourcing companies as well. So there was this sort of dual track of outsourcing recruitment and recruitment technology. And I think with the skills that I had previously from my other roles, this is how it just developed. And then over time, that's formalized into what I do now in the team that I've now got out there supporting companies that are our clients.
Yeah. And today we're going to kind of dip into your kind of knowledge around this space and talk primarily around the challenges that face scaling RecTech businesses. So I think what we need to kind of define first is, what do we mean by scaling?
Yeah. So we work, I'm a strategist, which is my company. We work primarily with, and when we say scaling, we really mean HR technology companies, which could include recruitment technology, HR technology, payroll, learning. It's a people think it's a niche. It's actually a massive sector. Companies normally between about 1 million and 10 million ARR. Quite a lot of them actually are bootstrapped or have only gone through one round of funding potentially. and they've reached a point when they've proven their product in the market. They know there is an appetite for it. They know they can sell it, but that has probably come through vigorous founder-led sales. These companies have great founders. Family and friends, sometimes a bit of luck, judgment, and network that have gotten to the point where they've got to seven figures. Not to say it's not difficult, but they then got to a point. They say, "Well, how do I double my income when I'm at 2 million ARR to 4 million?" That's a lot more difficult than when you're trying to go from 500,000 to 1 million. So we're trying to really help them almost industrialize what they've done. This might sound a little bit pejorative, but it's almost going from amateur to professional, if you see what I mean. That because eventually these founders are going to have to step away from their businesses, and they need a team in place that's going to be able to do what they do, but doing in a scaled up way.
Yeah, I guess you could almost kind of swap out scale for growing up, right? It could be just kind of kind of more adult way of running your business, and just kind of as opposed to when you're kind of first starting out with, I don't know, there's a couple of you, and literally the world is your oyster, and you're working every hour that God sends. Then the next step is, oh my God, this is actually a proper business. I need to, what do I do now? Kind of situation. Yeah,
that's right. And it starts off with you and your mate, a few other people that you met in the pub, and then oh, actually, I now got to start recruiting people, and now I've got to start putting some processes around this, and now I've got to start doing this, and I've got to start doing that. And it's very difficult, I think, when you're at the fulcrum of that type of an organization. You watch it grow. I mean, you're changing. I mean, I've founded companies. You're changing as they're changing, as the team's changing, as your objectives are becoming bigger, as the challenges change. So what we're trying to do almost is to provide a bit of a safety blanket, a wrapper around the founder and the senior management team to really guide them through those changes. So what are the decisions? First of all, what are the decisions that need to be made? And then how can we ensure that the decisions that are made are going to result in, most likely to result in success and minimize risk?
So you touched on a few of the things there, but what are these kind of challenges? Let's kind of go through these kind of things that these scaling HR tech, RecTech businesses are gonna kind of hit. What are the road humps and the road bumps they're going to hit along the way?
I think the one that we really see is this realization that they are suddenly in a pretty competitive market. Quite often when they're launching these products, there is something innovative about them. And they can target the people that they're talking to, and they can probably identify those people that are prepared to make innovative decisions. They're going for the sort of the people that are at the early stages of technology adoption. But once you get to the point where you've got that presence within a market, apart from anything else, your competitors start to realize that you're actually there and taking business from them. And you're now starting probably to sell to people that are a little bit more cautious about the type of technology that they're going to buy. They're not looking for necessarily the new kid on the block. So what we're trying to do in a lot of cases is really deal with this challenge of competitiveness. And how do I position myself in a market that's seeming to me to become increasingly competitive? It's probably the same as it was to begin with. It's just that you've reached the size now where you're being noticed and you're up against competition. So we spend a lot of time really trying to examine that and what are the things that are causing the issues around, for instance, lack of leads, the inability to be able to convert those leads into demos and demos into business. So that whole sort of almost professionalization of the process that they've got as they're going to market is the challenge really that we're trying to deal with when we're working with them.
And is the problem with that you can possibly stifle some of that innovation that made them so exciting in the first place? Is almost kind of professionalizing and processizing all of that, if that is such a word. Could that be not detrimental, but you know what I mean? Can that stifle something that made them really exciting in the first place? And if that's so, how do you keep that? How do you continue to keep everybody in the board and at the kind of director table enthusiastic and feeling that way, like it's a small business, but now you're a medium-sized business with turning over 10 million or something?
Yeah, I think actually one of the biggest issues that we see with companies that are trying to deal with this challenge of competitiveness in the market is that they think they just need to add on multiple elements of new functionality onto their product. And that may not be innovative functionality, that may just be functionality to copy the competition that's there. So if we take a step back from that and we think and we look at how have they actually got to where they are today? How have they actually got the clients that they've got? And what are the clients that they've got? What are the customers that they've got? Why have they actually bought this product? What is it about this product that made them feel they needed to go for this particular technology rather than another competitive technology, or in some cases not buy technology at all?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the work that we're looking at is how what's in the minds of the buyers, and what is it specifically about this technology then that they've been looking at? Or not so much about the technology, but what is the problem that this technology solves better than anyone else in the market?
Yeah.
And that to me is the biggest question that any scale up should be thinking to themselves. And I'm really trying to get to the root of what is the problem that we solve? And really everything from marketing to sales and product development hangs off the answer to that question. So this isn't a feature functionality competition. This is more around carving out your place in the market in the context of, okay, I know if I talk to these guys in this market who are going through these issues, we have got the best solution for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. We come across that a lot and have those conversations and talk about what's the problem that you're solving. And no one really cares what the features or how it's done. No one gives a monkeys at that point of making a decision. It might become relevant as you get further down the chain and implementation. But yeah, it is around where do you fit into the jigsaw of whichever process you are working within, whether that's the recruitment process, the HR process,
or whatever. And the problem is that when you're sitting there and you are a part of a technology company, when you think about the problem that you're solving, you don't quite often in your head, you're not actually thinking about the problem. You're thinking about the functionality and the features. And so we'll ask a company and we'll go, right, so tell me, what's the problem you solve? And they say, oh, well, our clients need X, Y, and Z. And we go, but you're not answering the question. You're saying what your clients need. You're not actually uncovering the problems that are causing them to need the functions and the features that we've got. So it is it can be quite philosophically quite deep conversation to have, not only with the technology businesses, but also with the companies that are using. Because sometimes they don't really understand the problems. It's an intuitive, motivation sometimes. So we're really trying to understand that, and then build this narrative around the ideal customer that explains what are the characteristics of the organization that means this product is the best one for them, and that's why they bought it.
Yeah, and I guess also, like with a lot of tech businesses, where they start is not necessarily always where they end in what they actually offer. It can change quite radically in those 4 or 5 years that they've between starting up and getting to wherever they are now. So they can start, they're doing this piece of this is the problem they solve, but in time, actually, they gets manipulated and changed, and however client demand means it does that. And I guess sometimes it's you can still get mindsets to say, well, we still do that, which was like 4 years ago. Well, no, you're actually doing this, which you're doing now, which is kind of led you to this place. I guess you see that a lot as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is definitely a cycle of pivot that we see. Yeah. So you've got an organization that would start with a particular philosophy. Quite often the founder has started this because they've identified a particular problem that needs solving. And they go, actually, I could build a technology that deals with that. And then you get a bit from problem-led to technology-led. And then it's quite often they have to go back to problem-led because they have to sort of refocus their go-to-market efforts around that, because the feature function sort of focus just isn't working. The product focus isn't working. and also macroeconomic reasons and legislative reasons like GDPR. I mean, we work with a number of companies that had to completely redo their go-to-market strategy and proposition because of legislative issues around data. And I think the ability for a scale up to be able to be agile and flexible, don't be too rigid in the way that they think they should be going to market. Is important. You have to be able to react to customer demands and also your own internal capability and what you're able to offer as well.
Before we move on to kind of aligning other parts of your kind of marketing and sales process, which I want to talk about, how a lot of what I see with kind of smaller startup businesses is they can be very led by what the clients are demanding, and they kind of get. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Should you be kind of like laser focused and this is what we started it to do this, or our clients? We've got some clients on and they're asking for this, and which is there a negative? Is there a positive? Is there a pro or a con?
So I think let's go back to what's the problem that we solve better than anyone else for our target market. I think if they are talking to people within that target market who want to solve that problem, and there is a realization that there is certain functionality that doesn't exist or could be enhanced to give them a competitive advantage, for instance, I think that's absolutely quite legitimate increment to the functionality of the business. I think the problem is when you get an opportunistic lead from a completely different area that suddenly needs something which wouldn't be on your normal roadmap if you were looking at that market or complementary markets. And that's when I think we see clients defocusing really on the types of organizations they're selling to and the benefit that they can deliver. I think this is one of the common failings that I see is there's almost a feeling that you can solve your go-to-market issues by putting more functionality into your product. And actually, sometimes it's better to strip functionality out of your product and just make what you do even better.
Yeah. And I guess that helps with your kind of, one, being able to sell it, one, being able to, it's perfect for the target audience. It's a simpler road and development map, simply because
simpler roadmap, accelerated around certain elements. I think if you have a product leadership position, then it gives you the ability to leapfrog competitors within that market around certain aspects. Well, the trouble is if somebody will come in and they'll say, oh yeah, but such and such a company does that, why can't you do that? And suddenly the product developers, yeah, we could do that, it'll only take us a month to put in. Well, yeah, but you're just copying somebody else's functionality for a client who's sitting in a market with problems that frankly aren't your core. Where does that go? It goes nowhere.
And is that kind of, again, maybe coming back to this question I asked at the start with the need to try to continually be innovative, to continually add new features, which may or may not be needed, but it fulfills that process internally that we're continuing to develop and we're continuing to be innovative. Is that the kind of, is that the mindset kind of I guess the founders can get into?
I think they can, but again, it's breadth versus depth. And they've really got to understand what's the purpose of that roadmap and the business strategy around that roadmap and how it aligns with the go-to-market strategy. And if the functionality doesn't augment or enhance your go-to-market approach, generally, as you're moving forward, there's no point in doing it for one client. It's never, ever going to be used by anybody else again. Yeah. It's a cost to the business, basically.
I mean, what I like about kind of this conversation and generally working with recruitment tech and HR tech businesses is that this is actually all kind of a marketing and branding question in the
Absolutely.
End, right? It is what is your message? How do you take that to market? How do you get that in front of the right people that have that problem that you are solving at that point of need? So the kind of next question on is, if you've got the business kind of strategy pretty much set down, how then do you get everything else aligned internally? How do you get the sales, the marketing? Technically, don't tend to want to talk to each other. The salespeople are the guys who slams the phones. The marketing are draw pretty pictures. You know what I mean? That's I guess an eternal question. Is right. Let's kind of talk about that for a bit.
And I think one of the most common issues with performance within marketing and sales teams is not actually the capability or the competence of the people within those teams. It's actually the framework within which they're operating. And if they don't, if you recruit an SDR and you say to the SDR, I want you to make so many phone calls to these types of companies and get us demos, and here's the product. Have a look at one of the other demos that we've done. That is just sort of almost you're setting that individual up to fail, because they've got actually no idea really why they're talking to these people and why these people should want to have a demo of this particular product. If there is a business strategy that is adequately defines the go-to-market direction of the business, then it's beholden on the management team then to make sure that it's communicated fully to the marketing team and the sales team, and that there is alignment across all of those things. And we have something called the propositional framework, which is actually people think is a marketing, but it's not. It's a business tool. And the middle of that propositional framework is sort of hub and spoke. The hub of it is what actually is your product offering. Mm-hmm. And quite often we find marketing and sales businesses just struggle even on the basic ability to be able to communicate what it is they're actually selling.
Yeah.
And how do I frame that? How do I position that? How do I, especially if it's something new, how do you communicate that easily to somebody? We've got an XYZ type of product, so people understand it.
Yeah.
And then around that, you've got, okay, well, why should people buy it? What's the proposition? We've got, how do you position that within the market, which is in particular important from a competitive, but also a partnership point of view. You've got the persona and who you should be selling to. And then lastly, you've got the whole pricing issue and the whole commercial side of things. And so we always recommend that the management teams of these companies need to get to grips with what we call the propositional framework, and then work with your marketing team and your sales team so they really understand that and get that alignment across the whole business. That, of course, as well, it's fed into the product team. And as you were saying, the product development roadmap. The idea here being is that, if we understand what our sort of current and future propositional framework is, every part of the business can feed off that in a consistent way, rather than your development team going off and developing something that actually nobody's asked for, but somebody thought might be a good idea.
Yeah. And where do you buy into the kind of RevOps and things like that, where you've kind of basically got sales, marketing, and other kind of teams all all under one banner, basically, all kind of pushing to generate revenue, as opposed to having separate sales teams and separate marketing teams, but you smash it all together in RevOps?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure I have a hard and fast view about that. I mean, what you do need definitely is a single integrated process across the piece.
Yeah.
I mean, quite often, when we do work around the capability of teams and around how they're structured and commission and all that type of stuff. And this is where RevOps, the RevOps discussion comes in. But we've got to be sort of conscious of the fact that, that people have got their own ways of working, and, people with different capabilities within the organizations. So I think the way we prefer to look at it is, rather than saying this is our set way of organizing your operation from a go-to-market point of view, let's actually have a look at the capability that you've got, and how do we organize that in the best way.
Yeah.
Does there need to be an integrated view of the world between marketing and sales, and I think some joint targets? And do we want to try and avoid the situation where you've got a wall between them, with marketing throwing leads over and sales dropping them, or picking up and going, this isn't appropriate for me? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the closer they can work together, the better.
Howard, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We will have you back on again, because what I would like to discuss, and maybe we do a part 2, is the other end of this process, which is around funding, investment, and acquisition, which all businesses want to go towards. So we can deal with that on part 2. But Howard, for now, thank you very much. Obviously, we'll put all your details in the show notes. So if anybody wants to know more about you and your business, they can read it all there. So thank you very much.
And good to talk to you. Thanks very much for inviting me on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.